was just part of the game. I think the refs had a lot to do with that. It was a build-up for a couple of years now of them just not protecting, the star player of the WNBA. And so at the end of the day, I'm going to protect my teammates. That's what I do.
Nobody saw it coming. Fans and teammate Caitlin Clark were taken aback as Sophie Cunningham revealed a stunning surprise mid-aim. Caitlin's name is on a $25 million Nike contract. Cameras caught Caitlin's unfiltered emotional response in real time when the arena froze. Shock, incredulity, and happy tears. This was more than a contract. It was a moment that defined a career and made a strong statement about women's sports receiving recognition at last. However, how did Sophie manage to pull this off? What does this signify for Caitlin's future? Just watch to see how she responds. The moment nobody anticipated. Everything began just like every other day. Before the squad took the court, Caitlin Clark assumed she was going to a standard strategy meeting, just another planning session tucked away in a quiet conference room. She anticipated discussing some marketing pitches, going over some updates regarding sponsorship opportunities she had been pursuing since before the draft, and then getting to practice. However, she felt that something was unusual as soon as she entered. There was an almost electric charge in the air. Sophie Cunningham, a seasoned WNBA player renowned for her unwavering poise and unrelenting determination, was seated at the table. Caitlin had always admired Sophie, a player who blended genuine kindness with ferocity. However, Sophie's typical composure had given way to a clear flush of enthusiasm today. She was holding a sleek folder close to her chest, as though it held something too precious to let go. She could barely contain her smile as her eyes glistened. Curious, Caitlin cocked her head. Her voice was light, but her heart was racing as she inquired, "What's going on?" Sophie took a while to respond. Rather, she got to her feet, approached Caitlin, and placed the folder in her hands. "Go on," she said, her voice full of passion. Caitlin opened the folder with a shaking hand and said, "Open it. This belongs to you." Everything around her seems to blur as soon as her gaze settled on the document inside. She could hardly believe what she saw there, emblazoned in huge letters with the recognizable swoosh insignia shining up at her. A $25 million Nike endorsement deal. Her name was on one of the largest contracts ever extended to a female basketball player. Caitlin was unable to move or speak for a few stunned seconds. It seemed as though everyone in the room was holding their breath along with her as the room grew silent. Her heart pounded loudly in her ears. This was the kind of transformative experience she had imagined in her dreams, the kind of recompense she believed may take years to materialize, if it ever did. As reality set in, tears clouded her eyesight. This was the result of all the evenings she spent working out by herself in the gym, the naysayers she disregarded, and the moments she questioned whether her aspirations were too lofty. What was even more shocking was that this surprise had not come from an anonymous business boss. It came from Sophie, a friend and mentor who had discreetly worked behind the scenes for weeks, advocating for Caitlin with Nike's decision-makers and ensuring that her exceptional skill was acknowledged. Overwhelmed, Caitlin raised her head and met Sophie's radiant eyes. She became aware in that moment that she wasn't merely seeing the beginning of a momentous collaboration with Nike. Additionally, she was witnessing a strong act of devotion and faith from someone who only wanted to see her succeed. Many people stated how surprised they were by Sophie's warmth and consideration. So, is it an investment for the future or a genuine expression of love? Let's examine Sophie's path to fame in more detail. For years, Sophie Cunningham was the epitome of perseverance in the WNBA, going from seasoned underdog to unlikely historical architect. She gained notoriety through viral moments or eye-catching headlines, but more by her tough personality and no-nonsense game. Sophie, who was drafted by the Phoenix Mercury, established herself in the league by putting in the hard work, making clutch three-pointers, locking down opponents, and exhibiting a genuine, honest approach that fans found refreshing. Sophie's journey as an endorser was more modest than that of some of her classmates who went on to become the faces of major ad campaigns. Although they didn't generate millions of dollars, she promoted women-focused sports brands and collaborated with local companies. She wasn't the player that businesses were offering multi-million-dollar contracts to, despite the fact that the league regarded her for her dependability and moral character. Sophie wasn't resentful, though. She has a strategic mind. She was aware of the potential power of a significant endorsement agreement. Money wasn't the only factor. It was about raising awareness, making progress, and changing the perception of women's sports. Sophie realized something unique was taking place when she witnessed Caitlin Clark igniting audiences, packing arenas, and earning national headlines. Caitlin was more than just a gifted athlete. She was a force for change. In ways the WNBA hadn't seen in years, her personality, energy, and style were attracting fans. Sophie sensed an opportunity, but not just for herself. When Nike contacted her about increasing their commitment in women's basketball, she made the audacious and altruistic decision to highlight Caitlin Clark. Sophie advocated for Caitlin rather than promoting her own name. She showcased Caitlin's influence on and off the court with statistics, videos, and anecdotes. She demonstrated to Nike not only Caitlin's athletic prowess, but also her potential as a symbol. It was a big risk. The majority of athletes would have taken advantage of that opportunity to ensure their own future. Sophie, however, wasn't thinking tiny. She thought that all women in the game may benefit from a deal for Caitlin. And in unexpected ways, her trust paid off. Nike paid attention. They went all in, not just agreed. The sports world watched in amazement as Caitlin Clark signed a historic $25 million contract to represent Nike women's basketball. One of the loudest declarations in recent sports history that true leaders uplift others came from Sophie's silent expression of support. Sophie's fingerprints were all over the place, even though her name wasn't on the contract. Because sometimes your legacy is based on what you assist others receive rather than what you take. However, why did Sophia choose Caitlin by hand? What makes her fortunate to receive the surprise? Let's take a quick look at Caitlin Clark, the rookie who rewrote the playbook, before getting into the specifics. Caitlin Clark wasn't your typical rookie when she took the WNBA court for the first time. She had a lot of expectations. During her time in college, when she was more than simply a basketball player, her name had already become famous. With each stunning deep three-pointer and bold, thrilling performance, she redefined it. Regular games became national events thanks to her. Stadiums filled up, television ratings skyrocketed, and individuals who had previously hardly followed basketball became into devoted followers. Her influence extended beyond the scoreboard. It was cultural. Caitlin possessed a unique spark that enhanced the size, brightness, and excitement of everything around her. Excitement ensued when she decided to enter the WNBA. Ticket sales skyrocketed everywhere she performed. Media outlets were unable to obtain enough. The buzz persisted and was genuine. However, despite all the hype and potential, Caitlin had not yet secured a groundbreaking endorsement contract. Yes, there were discussions and brands around, but nothing tangible had emerged until a strong push from an unexpected source. Let's return to Sophie Cunningham now. Sophie, a well-known WNBA veteran, noticed Caitlin's potential to transform the future in addition to admiring her skill. Behind the scenes, Sophie quietly yet steadfastly supported Caitlin. She realized Caitlin was more than just another up-and-coming celebrity. She was the kind of exceptional talent that could usher in a completely new era for women's basketball. Then, the game changer arrived. Nike intervened with a huge $25 million agreement that rocked the sports industry. This went beyond simple sponsorship. It was a declaration. Women's basketball isn't just worth watching, it's worth investing in. Seriously. According to reports, the deal includes a unique signature shoe line created specifically for Caitlin, extensive national advertising campaigns based on her story, and significant community initiatives aimed at fostering girls' basketball from the ground up. There was more to this occasion than just Caitlin. It was about all the women who had ever wanted to put on sneakers and play in bright lights. While NBA players sign deals worth hundreds of millions of dollars, WNBA athletes have toiled tirelessly for years, frequently with little financial appreciation. A clear and annoying message was sent by that gap, however it is currently being redone. What fans and insiders previously knew was confirmed by Caitlin's arrangement. Women athletes should be the focus of significant marketing initiatives since they can increase sales and attract viewers. Perhaps more significantly, it demonstrated that players themselves can affect change in addition to businesses or leagues. Veterans like Sophie have the power to change the rules, create opportunities, and leave legacies. Money and celebrity are not the only factors in this. It is a pivotal moment in the history of women's athletics. And the name spearheading the effort is Caitlin Clark. Given their shared interests, it makes sense that they would become friends. Let's examine the specifics of the friendship that inspires constructive transformation. The enormous sum of money involved wasn't the only thing that made this event genuinely unique when friendship serves as the impetus for change. By all accounts, $25 million is a life-altering amount, but what really impressed everyone watching was the sincere generosity that went into it. What Sophie Cunningham did wasn't necessary. In those crucial Nike meetings, she might have devoted all of her time to discussing her contracts, deals, and how she should be paid more. Nobody would have held her accountable for that. She had, after all, spent years establishing herself in a sport where female players are always fighting for respect, acknowledgement, and financial security. Sophie was considering more than just herself. Her dreams were more ambitious. She made a different decision than many people in her situation who could have solely been concerned with their own achievement. Sophie made the decision to help someone else by using her connections, reputation, and platform. She thought Caitlin Clark was more than just a gifted athlete. Sophie saw Caitlin as a spark with the potential to transform women's basketball in ways never seen before. Sophie wasn't simply helping her buddy when she stepped up to help Caitlin get this historic endorsement agreement. She was sowing the seeds of a better future for the WNBA as a whole. She had a strong understanding. One woman opens the door for others to follow after she breaks through the obstacles. All of a sudden, more spectators begin to watch the games. Sponsors begin to take notice. Everywhere, young girls start to picture themselves in professional jerseys with their names being chanted by audiences. Sophie's decision went beyond a contract or a headline. It was intended to convey the idea that female athletes should have the same chances, respect, and attention as male athletes. Her acts had a knock-on effect, demonstrating that amazing change is possible when women support one another. She witnessed not only what Caitlin was capable of, but also the significance of that accomplishment for many other athletes who will eventually take the court with similar aspirations. Caitlin's emotions overtook her when the unexpected announcement was delivered. Her expression said it all. She was simultaneously moved, humbled, and shocked. She turned to Sophie, drew her into a tight hug, and said, tears in her eyes, "I don't even have words." You could feel the weight of everything they had both given up in that silent moment as cameras flashed and people shouted. The never-ending training sessions, the public scrutiny, the self-doubt, and the underlying realization that this was about something much bigger than a contract. This one act of generosity brought to light the allure and inspiration of women's sports. It's not simply about who wins the awards or scores the most points. It's about resiliency, camaraderie, and a common goal that transcends personal aspirations. Women's sports frequently foster a camaraderie that feels like family, in contrast to many other settings where competition transforms people into rivals. The athletes are fighting not just for themselves, but also for future generations and one another. Sophie's decision to stand next to Caitlin at that precise moment conveyed a strong message. Real success is determined by how you use your platform to help others climb with you, not simply by your own accomplishments. Season after season, women's sports continue to flourish because of this enthusiasm. The notion that advancement should be shared. It's evident why moments like this can inspire millions of people outside of the court when you see that level of unity. Sophie Cunningham's unwavering support and solidarity for her buddy in court demonstrated the depth of their connection. What took place? How did Sophie Cunningham stand up for her friend? Let's investigate. Sophie Cunningham's unity. Following a tough game against the Connecticut Sun, Sophie Cunningham spoke candidly with media. She publicly chastised the WNBA for failing to safeguard her colleague, Caitlin Clark, who has emerged as the biggest new star in the league. Cunningham made it apparent that she was fed up with Clark being shoved, hit, and fouled without facing any repercussions. After Cunningham gave Sunuard JCS Sheldon a hard foul, the game descended into chaos. Sheldon had earlier unintentionally jabbed Clark in the eye, which many thought was a risky move. Cunningham's combative reaction was like lighting a match near gasoline, and tensions had already been building. Players from both sides suddenly charged in, pushing and yelling. The game was stopped when a full-fledged altercation broke out. With less than a minute remaining in regulation, officials dismissed Sunuard Lindsay Allen, Cunningham, and Sheldon. Indiana managed to win the game in spite of the turmoil. However, Cunningham later wanted everyone to understand the reasons behind her actions. She clarified that there was more to this affair than a single fall or game. "This has been building up for a couple of years," Cunningham clearly stated. She claimed that despite Clark being the WNBA star player and attracting a lot of attention from fans, referees had consistently failed to shield him from excessive contact. "I'm going to defend my teammates in the end," she said. "I do that." Clark has faced harsh, occasionally hazardous defense since joining the league in 2024. There were many contentious incidents throughout her debut season. Referees swallowed their whistles as opponents repeatedly banged her around. Videos of Clark being beaten went viral online, infuriating fans. A particularly contentious instance occurred during a close game against the New York Liberty earlier this season. When Indiana was behind by 2 points on the final play of the game, Clark drove in the direction of the hoop. Just as the ball came free, Natasha Cloud of New York pushed her shoulder into Clark's side. The whistle was not blown by the officials. Confused and irritated, Clark raised her hands. When the final buzzer went off, she and Cunningham both yelled at the officials. The contact that would have been considered a foul was plainly seen on a video, which might have given Clark free throws to tie or win the game. Such incidents have strengthened Cunningham's resolve to defend her teammate at all costs. Some view her as a devoted enforcer who won't allow the league's top player to be mistreated, while others condemn her rough style. Additionally, Cunningham's acts serve as a message to officials and opponents alike. She will intervene if the authorities refuse to. Additionally, Cunningham appears prepared to defend Caitlin Clark whenever she continues to garner more attention and hits. Caitlin Clark's surprise from Sophie Cunningham is a great message for friends, co-workers, and professional athletes. What does this genuine act of kindness suggest? Let's examine this wonderful example of sportsmanship in more detail. A new age has begun. This historic agreement could be the catalyst for a much more significant shift in the women's basketball industry. Women athletes have been battling for the respect, resources, and acknowledgement they are due for many years. Large companies are now beginning to realize that sponsoring women's sports is more than just excellent publicity. It's a wise business decision. Companies will be motivated to become involved themselves when they witness the enthusiasm and loyalty this investment generates, whether it's through ticket sales, items flying off the shelves, or massive online involvement. It resembles a chain reaction. One audacious action opens others' eyes to the possibilities. More athletes will have the opportunity to make life-altering money and accumulate wealth that will sustain them and their family for decades as more companies promote women's basketball. More significantly, they will give millions of young girls watching hope that they can succeed as well. There are already rumors in the sports marketing industry that WNBA players are being approached by other businesses. By acting first, they want to achieve the same level of achievement and goodwill that Nike just claimed. Being the first to support a cause in a competitive market typically results in loyalty and cultural impact, and nobody wants to fall behind. Younger players are paying attention in the meanwhile. They are learning that they can open avenues that sportsmen before them could only imagine if they devote time to developing their own brands, interacting with fans in an honest manner, and showcasing who they are off the court. Major endorsement deals, media appearances, and signature items are examples of opportunities that used to seem unattainable, but are increasingly becoming possible. There's more to this than just a business headline. It's a preview of a time when female athletes won't have to settle for the bare minimum. It envisions a future in which the leadership of seasoned veterans blends with the new vitality of up-and-coming talent to elevate the sport as a whole. Players won't have to decide between pursuing their passion and earning a life in the future. They will at last receive the resources and acknowledgement that their talent merits. What do you think, then? Should more players encourage their colleagues and advance the sport by using their platforms and influence? Please share your ideas in the comments section below. Remember to subscribe and like.